Hi everyone. Welcome to our new audiobook, The Alpha King's Runaway Pregnant Luna. I really appreciate it if you could subscribe or liked the video. It helps me a lot. The novel of the same name is also available on Amazon Kindle. If you enjoy this book, please support the author's work by clicking the link below. Now, let's start.
Chapter 1: A Rain-Soaked Revelation. Freya's POV. The sterile scent of disinfectant filled the hospital air, pricking at my sensitive nose as the sound of my heartbeat thundered in my ears. I sat stiffly on the chair, my fingers gripping the edge as though it could keep me from spinning out of control. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood in front of me with a warm smile, holding a paper that could change my life. "Congratulations, Luna Snow," she said, and her voice seemed to echo in the room almost too loud compared to the drumming of my thoughts. "You're going to have a healthy cub." I froze, my breath catching. My hands trembled as I reached out and clasped the report she handed me. "I'm pregnant." My voice cracked, barely over a whisper. "Yes, about 6 weeks along," Sarah confirmed gently. Her glasses gleamed under the flickering hospital lights as she studied my face. "The heartbeat is strong. This is a joyous moment for your pack." Her voice trailed off as her smile faltered slightly. "Forgive me, Luna, but why isn't King Alpha Steele here with you? First appointments are usually shared between mates." My stomach tightened, and I struggled to force a smile. "He's busy with pack duties, territory disputes." I lied, trying to keep my tone nonchalant. The ache in my chest told me the lie wasn't for her, it was for me. She nodded sympathetically, misinterpreting the awkward pause as embarrassment. "Of course, alphas are always busy. But you should tell him soon. It's big news. After all, big news." How often had I dreamed of a moment like this, carrying my mate's cub, becoming the mother to the next alpha. But reality wasn't like the fairy tales I used to believe in. Aaron didn't love me. Our mating had been arranged political strategy masked as destiny. A part of me wanted to use the mate bond right there, to reach out to his mind and share this life-changing moment. But the memory of his cold, sharp words when I last used it on him stopped me. "Don't invade my thoughts without permission, Freya," he had snapped, his eyes like steel. "I've tolerated much already, but this is too far." I swallowed hard, forcing the memory away. "Thank you. I'm Orma de Sarah," clutching the papers tightly as I stood, leaving the clinic. The gentle drizzle of rain greeted me. I stepped onto the sidewalk and tilted my face upward, letting the cool drops land on my skin. My hand instinctively went to my stomach. Inside me, a tiny life grew, a reminder that Aaron and I were connected by more than just a bond we either of us asked for. For the first time that day, I smiled softly. "We'll be okay," I whispered, as though the cub could hear me. The buzz of my phone snapped me out of my thoughts. Pulling it out, I saw a message from Aaron. "Bring me an umbrella at the Blue Moon Club." I frowned, my heart sinking a little. The Blue Moon Club? He was supposed to be attending a pack meeting. My fingers hesitated over the screen, questioning, but I shook my head. Whatever his reasons, my role as Luna meant I supported him always, even when he didn't want it. Calling Thomas, the pack driver, I quickly arranged for him to pick me up. Third person's POV. The Blue Moon Club was a glittering spectacle in the heart of downtown Seattle, its sleek facade exuding exclusivity. Freya stepped out under the rain, her clothes damp from the light drizzle. Her eyes lingered on the building, where laughter and muted music spilled through from within. "Membership card." The towering bouncer at the entrance grunted, crossing his arms. Freya blinked in surprise. "I'm Luna Snow, of the Northern Ridge Pack. I'm here on behalf of Alpha Steele." He barely glanced at her, unimpressed. "No card. No entry. Those are the rules." A flush rose to her cheeks, but she kept her own calm. "Can you inform him I'm here?" she asked, pulling out her phone. She fired off a quick text to Aaron. "I'm outside with your umbrella." Unbeknownst to her, in an upper lounge of the club, a group of werewolves gathered around a table, enjoying the evening. Aaron sat at the center, his presence commanding as always. Beside him was Caroline Redwood, her perfectly curled hair and elegant dress drawing the occasional glance from the others in their group. Caroline's lips curled into a teasing smirk. "Your Luna came all the way to deliver you an umbrella. Aaron, how loyal." Marcus Cross, Aaron's second-in-command and childhood friend, chuckled as he held up Aaron's phone. Couldn't resist sending her a little message. She really does jump at your every word. Huh? Aaron grabbed his phone back, his golden eyes narrowing. Don't play games. Marcus, that was the only feeling I had left. He muttered, his expression unreadable. Tapping out a quick text. He told Freya to leave, don't need the umbrella. Go home. Marcus laughed again. But Aaron didn't join in. His gaze lingered out the window for a moment, where he could vaguely make out a figure standing in the rain. But he said nothing. Freya's POV. The short message made me pause. Standing outside in the rain, I held my phone tightly, staring at the screen. Don't need the umbrella. Go home. A sinking feeling settled over me. But I shook my head. Maybe he was busy. Maybe this was a misunderstanding. Aaron was an enigma to me most days, and our decades-apart connection felt like a bridge constantly on the verge of collapse. I sighed and turned to leave. Before I could step away, two female wolves approached me, their presence immediately making my wolf's ears perk up in warning. Well, if it isn't the Luna herself. The taller one sneered, her violet eyes gleaming with mockery. Beta Jane Thompson. The second one, Rachel Parker, tilted her head with a smirk. Out here in the rain. What a sad sight. Does the King Alpha even care about you? I don't want any trouble, I said quietly, my voice steady despite their jabs. But Jane wasn't having it. Oh, as the only feeling I have left is my hand. We're not here for trouble. Just a friendly word of advice. You know Caroline's back, right? The mention of her name made my chest tighten. I clenched my fists, holding back the wave of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. You should gracefully step down as Luna, Rachel added. Aaron's real mate is back now. You're just, well, a placeholder, aren't you? Their laughter echoed in the rain as they walked away, leaving me standing there, my heart heavy. My hand drifted to my stomach. That was the only feeling, seeking the faint comfort in knowing I carried the future Alpha. They didn't know. No one did. Not yet. By the time I returned to the pack house, I was drenched. My hair clung to my face, and my clothes felt heavy, like they were holding all the weight of my emotions. Aluna, Emily, our pack healer, rushed over with a towel. Her eyes were wide with worry. You're completely soaked. I barely had the energy to respond. But before I could, Aaron's presence filled the space. His arrival was like a gust of cold air, commanding everyone's attention. His golden eyes locked onto me, narrowing. Why are you wet? He demanded. His voice was sharp, frustration clear in every word. I froze under his piercing gaze. I couldn't tell him the truth, not about the prank, not about the Redwood Wolves' taunts. I gave my umbrella to a human child, I said softly, keeping my voice even. She needed it. His expression darkened. That was reckless. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is to risk exposure to humans like that? Have I not made myself clear about pack protocol? Each word landed like a blow. But I held his gaze, refusing to cower even as my emotions threatened to spill over. I blinked rapidly, forcing the tears back. Not here. Not in front of everyone. But it was like he could sense it. His own movements surprised me as much as the pack members watching. Without hesitation, Aaron strode forward and pulled me into his arms. It wasn't affection, it was instinct. His wolf side reacting to my distress, even as his human self might have fought against it. But even his arms couldn't keep a single tear from falling. It slipped down my cheek, landing on his shirt before I could stop it. This secret, the cub. Our air felt heavier than ever. Chapter 2: A Broken Bond. Freya's POV. Aaron's hand on my arm was rough as he all but pushed me into the bathroom. His movements sharp and cold. I stumbled slightly, catching myself on the edge of the sink as he stepped back and slammed the door shut. The loud bang echoed, making my wolf whimper within me. I stood there frozen, my breath shaky. I listened. The sound of his firm footsteps retreating growing fainter until they vanished completely. Only then did I dare to move. My hand reached up slowly, brushing away the tears that had already started to fall. The bathroom light buzzed softly, casting harsh shadows on the tiled floor. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the paper that had meant the world to me just hours ago, the hospital report. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it, the crinkled edges damp from the rain. The words blurred before my eyes, pregnancy confirmed. My wolf howled softly in my chest, but it sounded far away, like an echo I couldn't grasp. What a fool I'd been. I had imagined a joyous moment with Aaron, sharing this news together. I thought, perhaps for once, we could be more than just two shadows passing by in the same pack house. But what happened today shattered even that slim hope. My mind replayed the events of the night over and over. He never went anywhere without his phone. It was practically an extension of him as Alpha King. Someone else must have sent that message, leading me to that club, watching me from above as I stood in the rain like a naive fool. A bitter laugh slipped from my lips. It felt ugly. It felt ugly. Phew. My hands tightened on the report, and before I could even think twice, I ripped it apart, the paper shredding into worthless pieces in my hands. One by one, I tossed them into the toilet in flush. My stomach tightened as the water swirled, taking away what should have been my joy. I stepped into the shower, letting the hot water beat down on me. I stayed there longer than I needed to, hoping it could wash away more than just the cold rain. But hope was a dangerous thing, wasn't it? When I finally emerged, I wrapped a towel around my body and stared into the mirror. My reflection stared back with red-rimmed eyes, hair clinging wetly to my cheeks. But I ignored the sight. What did appearances matter now? Steeling myself, I walked out of the bathroom, my steps hesitant. Aaron was sitting at his desk, his broad shoulders hunched as he typed away on his laptop. The soft glow of the screen lit up his face, making his sharp features appear even colder than usual. His presence filled the room, suffocating in its intensity. He didn't even glance at me. Instead, he gestured lazily toward the desk beside him, a steaming cup of herbal tea waiting there. "Drink it," he said gruffly. His tone clipped. "Good for your health." I stared at the tea, feeling an ache in my chest. It wasn't kindness, it was obligation. My lips pressed together as I picked up the cup, but I didn't take a sip. Instead, I stood there, holding it, watching him. Aaron was always so focused, so controlled. But tonight there was something else. His movements were sharp, almost impatient. "Aaron," I said softly, my voice breaking the silence. He didn't even look up. "What?" His tone was curt, dismissive. I hesitated. The words I wanted to say caught in my throat. My gaze traced the outlines of his face, his strong jaw, the way his black hair fell slightly over his temple. When he finally glanced up, irritation gleamed in his golden eyes. "If you have something to say, then say it," he snapped. You it," I began. But before I could finish, he stood abruptly. In the blink of an eye, he closed the distance between us, his hands reaching out to cup my chin. His lips crashed against mine, rough and demanding. I gasped, the tea slipping from my hands and landing softly onto the carpet. Forgotten. His kiss was fierce, desperate, overwhelming. It was as though his wolf had taken over, unable to restrain the pull between us. I felt my knees weaken, my hands instinctively grasping his arms for balance. But even in the fire of the moment, there was pain. This wasn't love, it was something else altogether. Just as I pushed gently against his chest, trying to catch my breath, his phone buzzed loudly on the desk. Aaron froze instantly, the sound snapping him out of whatever this was. He pulled back, his eyes flashing with some emotion I couldn't name: anger, guilt, regret. Without a word, he turned away, grabbing his phone. Before answering, he glanced at me, his gaze softening for a fraction of a second. Then, as though caught, he quickly looked away. "Drink the tea," he muttered, his voice low, "and go to bed. You need rest." And just like that, he left the room. I stood unmoving, my lips tingling from his kiss. Confusion battled within me, clawing at the edges of my sanity. I wanted to scream, to cry, to demand what that had been. But instead, I could only watch the door click shut behind him. The room felt colder after he left. Without thinking, my feet carried me to the balcony. Aaron's deep voice drifted through the partially closed door of the adjacent room. I paused, listening against my better judgment. "Yes, I won't leave," he said, his tone gentler than I'd ever heard it. "What are you thinking? Get some sleep." My stomach twisted painfully as the meaning of his words sank in. There was no one else it could be. I leaned against the railing, the cold metal biting into my hands. A soft, hollow laugh escaped me. He could be so tender, so caring, just not for me. Back in the bedroom, I sat heavily on the edge of the bed. My thoughts ran wild. I was the only feeling I had allowed, flashing painfully vivid memories before me. Images of 2 years ago, of all the decisions that had laid me here. My family had been wiped out in a single greedy push from neighboring packs. We lost our land, our allies, and our status. What was left of us became a target for vultures, other alphas offering to take me as their mate in exchange for their help. Those were the darkest days of my life. I'd been ready to give up when Aaron returned. He swept in like a storm, shoving aside those who mocked me and protecting my family. When we found out we were fated mates, I thought it was a twist of fate. A gift from the moon goddess. How naive. He told me plainly the truth. This was no fairy tale. The mating was nothing more than a political exchange, a means to secure his grandmother Elder Catherine's approval. I agreed. What choice did I have? He would restore my family's name, and I would play the part of Luna, even if his heart belonged to someone else. After 2 years of trying to fill this role, all I had left in my chest was a hollow ache. Still awake. Aaron's deep voice startled me, pulling me back to the present. He sat beside me on the bed, his expression unreadable. His warmth radiated against my side, but it didn't feel comforting. My throat tightened. I didn't turn to face him. "We need to talk," he said, his tone measured. I closed my eyes, bracing myself. "I want to sever our mate bond," he said simply. Even though I'd expected this, my heart clenched painfully in my chest. The air seemed thinner, harder to breathe. "When?" I asked, relieved that my voice came out calm and steady. He hesitated, as though surprised by my composure. Then he cleared his throat and continued. "After my grandmother's treatment. We'll wait until she's fully recovered." I nodded. Just nodded. My lack of reaction seemed to unsettle him further. His jaw tightened, his hands clenching into fists. "You're heartless. You know that," he muttered, as if daring me to argue. 2 years. 2 years of this arrangement. And this was all he had to say. He lay back on the bed, closing his eyes as if trying to push away whatever discomfort lingered in him. "Aaron," I said softly after a long silence. His golden eyes opened, meeting mine. "What do you want to say?" I stared at him. The words caught in my throat. Finally, I managed to whisper, "Thank you. For these past 2 years." The light in his eyes dimmed, his expression unreadable. "You're so verbose," he said flatly, turning away. Verbose? The word stung more than it should have. I turned my back to him, curling up slightly on my side. The walls felt like they were closing in, the bed too large and too empty despite his presence. We didn't speak again. After the bond was severed, I wouldn't have the chance to thank him. Not again. Chapter 3: Hidden Secrets. Freya's POV. I woke up groggy, heavy-headed, and bone-tired. The after-effects of last night's rain were kicking in, and I caught what was likely the worst cold I'd had in years. I dragged myself out of bed and shuffled over to the bathroom, barely able to hold my head up. The bathroom light gleamed on the cold tiles, making my headache worse. I opened the medicine cabinet, pulling out a bottle of cold medicine. My fingers worked robotically, unscrewing the cap. But then it hit me. The cub. My joints locked in place, the bottle frozen halfway to my lips. I stared down at the pills in my palm, a wave of panic washing over me. I was pregnant 6 weeks along. I couldn't take these. They could harm the baby. Horrified, I rushed to the sink and spat out the small amount of water and pills that had touched my tongue. My hands shook as I rinsed my mouth out, gripping the basin for balance. "What are you doing?" Aaron's low, firm voice startled me. I spun around, nearly losing my footing. He stood in the doorway, broad-shouldered and imposing, the usual frown etched across his face. Even freshly out of bed, his golden eyes were sharp, his alpha presence suffocating the room with authority. I thought I grabbed the wrong medicine," I stammered, gripping the edge of the sink harder to steady myself. His eyes narrowed slightly, the suspicion clear in his gaze. He stepped closer, his hands stuffed into the pockets of his sweatpants. "You look awful." "I'm fine," I lied, my voice cracked, betraying just how bad I actually felt. Aaron tilted his head slightly, his eyes scanning me from head to toe. For a moment, his wolf flickered behind his gaze, the faintest glint of concern crossing his features. I didn't trust it to last. "You're burning up," he said flatly. He was close enough now that I could feel the faint warmth radiating from him, though Aaron's tone remained detached. His wolf, Logan, was restless. I could sense it. His wolf always responded when I was unwell or in danger, even when his human side ignored me. I tried to brush past him, needing to put space between us. "I'll be fine. It's just a cold." Aaron's arm shot out like lightning, blocking the doorway. His posture was tense, his eyes scrutinizing me further. "Freya, you don't look fine." "You." I said I'm fine. Aaron. I cut him off, harsher than I intended. My voice wavered under his piercing gaze. The bond hummed faintly between us, reminding me of the shred of connection we shared, a connection his wolf clung to, even if he didn't. But I couldn't afford this tension. Not when the secret of my pregnancy was still hanging precariously over my head. Aaron studied my face again, silent for a long beat. I thought he'd press the issue, but instead, he stepped to the side, his jaw tightening as he dropped his arm. "If you say so," he muttered coldly as I slipped past him. The relief that washed over me was short-lived. I could feel his gaze boring into my back. Third person's POV. The dining room was warm and bright, the morning sun spilling golden light across the table. Martha Wilson had outdone herself again, covering the table with freshly baked pastries, steaming coffee, and brightly colored fruit platters. The air smelled of roasted coffee beans and spiced cinnamon, a stark contrast to the icy tension now settling between the Luna and Alpha. Aaron took his seat at the head of the table without his usual greeting. His eyes were on his phone, thumb scrolling quickly across the screen. Freya quietly slid into the chair opposite him, her pale complexion and dark bags under her eyes not going unnoticed by him. "I'll drive you to the office today," Aaron said abruptly, breaking the silence. He barely glanced up from his phone, his tone leaving little room for debate. Freya froze mid-bite, the piece of toast on her plate suddenly tasting like ash in her mouth. "That's not necessary," she protested quickly, setting her silverware down. "I can get there on my own. It's just a short dock dive." Aaron finally looked up, arching a sharp brow at her unusual insistence. "I wasn't asking." Her heart started racing, and her palms grew damp. The last thing she needed was Aaron finding out about her pregnancy or, worse, putting the pieces together. The thought of being stuck in the car with him, with his alpha instincts and Logan's sharp senses heightened, sent a chill of dread running down her spine. "I just remembered," she blurted out, forcing herself to sound casual. "I forgot to finish a report last night. I need to leave early to fix it." He straightened in his chair, now leveling her with a penetrating stare. She felt small under it, like a cornered rabbit facing a predator. "Freya." His phone buzzed before he could finish. Caroline's name lit up the screen. Freya knew that name anywhere. That familiar mix of anger and despair bubbled beneath her chest, but she buried it deep. Aaron's gaze lingered on Freya for a moment longer before he picked up the phone. "Yes?" he answered, his tone softening by several notches. Freya didn't have to hear Caroline's voice on the other end to know who it was. The sudden, uncharacteristic warmth in Aaron's posture was enough of a tell. She took the opportunity to stand. "I'll be heading out now," she said quietly, already making her way toward the stairs. She grabbed her bag from the bedroom, her hands moving quickly as she sent him a quick text, heading to the office. "Have a good day." By the time Aaron ended the call, she was gone. Aaron stared down at his phone, frowning at her abrupt departure. It wasn't like her to avoid him, no matter how tense things were between them. The unease Logan felt earlier hadn't entirely dissipated, and it rubbed against him, making him restless. Freya's POV. My head throbbed the entire drive to the PAC office. Every breath felt like gravel scraping in my chest, and my body ached with exhaustion. The herbal tea I forced down earlier didn't seem to help. My fingers brushed over my stomach absently, a lump forming in my throat. How could something so small already feel like the entire world? I hadn't even met my cub, and already, I was ready to give up everything to protect them. But that fear of Aaron's rejection lingered, sharp and jagged in my chest. If he found out, if he demanded I terminate the pregnancy, I shook the thought away. while rising in the back of my throat. No. No force on this planet Alpha King or not would make me give up this life growing inside me. Keeping my delicate secret and fulfilling my duties as Luna would be no easy task. My cold didn't help my situation today. Every time I coughed, a wave of nausea and dizziness followed. Luna's now. Sir Akaber's soft yet direct voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. I looked up to see her slender frame and worried eyes hovering by my desk. Are you okay? You look like you've been hit by a truck. It would have been funny if I wasn't actually feeling half dead. I forced a small smile, waving her off. I'm fine, I'm fine. Sora. Just a cold. Are you sure? You look like you're about to pass out. I almost laughed at her bluntness, but coughed instead, clutching the edge of my desk. She made her way closer, her hand reaching out, pausing awkwardly. Let me handle these reports for today. I glanced at the neat stack of papers waiting for review. The thought was tempting, but I couldn't risk faltering in my duties. I needed to push through this. That's sweet of you, but I'll be okay, I insisted. Still, I accepted the second cup of herbal tea she had in hand, grateful for the warmth. By mid-morning, I gathered myself and made my way to Aaron's office. I knew he hated unannounced visits, but avoiding him wasn't an option when Caroline would likely be hovering around. Sure enough, Caroline was already there. The sight of her standing beside his desk even in something as ordinary as a blazer made my stomach twist. She was everything I wasn't: confident, graceful, composed. Her green eyes lit up when she saw me, her warm smile disarming and unassuming. Freya, she greeted, quickly closing the gap between us. She rested a perfectly manicured hand on my arm. I've been meaning to find you. I've just heard what happened to your pack. I'm so sorry. Her outpouring of sympathy felt genuine, which made it all the harder to resist despising her. She hadn't been here during the fallout of my family's pack collapse, having been abroad controlling her own pack's alliances. I had no idea until Aaron told me, Caroline explained, her concerned gaze not wavering. It must have been a lot to handle. I forced a tight smile, shrugging lightly. It's in the past now. Was I imagining it? Or did her hand linger longer than necessary on my arm? Whatever sincerity she held couldn't quite douse the bitterness curling in the pit of my stomach. Aaron, who had been standing by his desk watching the exchange, finally let his eyes fall on me when Caroline stepped away. As his gaze lingered, the annoyance carved into his features became clear. You look pale, Caroline commented, tilting her head slightly. Are you ill? Aaron immediately straightened, his piercing golden eyes flicking back to me. Why did you come to work if you're sick? His tone wasn't gentle, wasn't full of concern. It was cutting, authoritative, and laced with irritation. Even in moments like this, he cared more for appearances and rules than me. Chapter 4: Fever Dreams and Old Flames. Freya's POV. Aaron's sharp reprimand hung heavy in the air of his office. The stares of the nearby pack members, especially Caroline's sympathetic gaze, seared into my skin like fire. My fists clenched at my sides, desperate to keep my anger and humiliation from showing. Are you here if you're sick? Aaron barked and porked, his voice cutting through me without mercy. Luna or not, you have no excuse to neglect your health. How can you attend to pack matters when you can't even attend to yourself? The incredulous scoffs of the other wolves in the room made the blood pound in my ears. Caroline's soft gasp reached me next, her tone effortlessly kind as she interjected. Aaron, that's enough, Caroline. Aaron growled, and my shaky hand instinctively gripped the back of a chair for balance. Freya knows better. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat lodged like a stone. The pregnancy had robbed me of my focus and strength today. And now my Linus Addis, my title, my pride, all of it felt like it was slipping away with every accusing glare Aaron sent my way. I couldn't bear to stay a moment longer. Careful not to let my voice crack, I managed to speak. Pardon me, Alpha. I remembered some urgent tasks in my office. I'll the only feeling I had left. Excuse myself now. Turning abruptly, I moved toward the door. Caroline, ever the caring presence, spoke again in my defense. Her voice was soft, warm, and so full of concern it made my stomach knot in jealousy. Aaron, you shouldn't be so harsh. I froze at the doorway, my fingers trembling on the handle as I heard Aaron snort. Harsh? The word dripped with sarcasm. The former princess of the Snowblade Pack isn't made of glass. Caroline. She can endure more than you think. Pity. That's all I saw in their eyes. And worse. He made me feel like a broken relic. The once proud Luna now overstayed her welcome, standing as a shadow of the mate he never wanted. That was all I could take. I pushed the door open and walked quickly, ignoring the pulsing ache in my temples and the tightening in my chest. By the time I reached my office, my knees felt weak, and my thoughts spun. My fingers trembled as I leaned against my desk, my head pounding. "Oh, Luna, you're burning up." Sarah Cooper's voice startled me. She rushed to my side, her face pale with worry. "Please, please, let me call someone. You need to rest." I waved her off, my voice hoarse. "I'll stay here. I just need a few minutes." She hesitated, wringing her hands nervously. I appreciated her concern, but I couldn't bear the thought of anyone reporting this back to Aaron. I wanted to avoid another scolding or more piercing looks from the pack. I lowered my head onto the desk, fighting the fever's pull. I let it win. In my fevered dream, I was young again, a hopeful 18-year-old. The corridors of the old pack house stretched endlessly in the moonlight as I crept toward the training room. My hands gripped the folded letter I'd written, a confession of my feelings for Aaron. Just as I approached the door, voices stopped me. "She saved my life." "Marcus," Aaron was saying, his voice filled with admiration. "Do you understand what that means to me? I'll always owe Caroline." Marcus laughed lightly. "You're hopeless." That was the only feeling I had left of my hands. "Aaron, everyone knows you'd go to the ends of the earth for her, even if she doesn't want to be your Luna." A bitter pang struck me as I hesitated by the door. "Freya?" someone asked. My ears perked up at my name. Aaron's laugh followed, soft but dismissive. "Freya is like my little sister. She's sweet." "Sure. But that words are bored." "That's it. I'll protect her because it's my duty as Alpha. But Caroline will always have a place in my heart that no one can replace." My heart cracked, the words cutting through me like a blade. The dream shifted, and I wasn't 18 anymore. Darkness wrapped around me as Aaron's glowing golden eyes pinned me in place. His clawed hand gripped my chin harshly, his voice a cold command. "Get rid of it," he snarled. "This cub is proof of nothing but manipulation. Do you think I'll fall for a trap like this?" The word sent my wolf, Bella, howling inside me in abject anguish. I tried to speak, to argue, but Caroline appeared at Aaron's side, her stunning face emotional as. "She's just trying to trap you, Aaron. You know that," she said coldly, tilting her head in mock pity. "No," I cried out, my own voice ripping through the nightmare. I woke with a start. My body jerked forward as my lungs pulled in deep, ragged breaths. The nightmare still clawed at the edges of my mind. My skin was damp with sweat. My resolve shaken. "She's awake," said a voice that made me sit straighter. It was Caroline. I turned my head and blinked, realizing I wasn't in my office. The soft seats of Aaron's car surrounded me. Caroline sat primly in the passenger seat, her expression a mask of delicate concern. "How are you feeling? How are you feeling, Freya?" she asked. Her tone was so unbearably perfect, like sugar on poison. Aaron's voice interrupted any attempt I would have made to respond. "You're going to the hospital." "No," as the only feeling I had left is my hands. I croaked, shaking my head weakly. My voice was hoarse, but I forced myself to sit taller. The fever might have drained my body, but I couldn't give in to this demand. The hospital could ruin everything. "Freya," Caroline's voice softened as she turned to look at me. "You really shouldn't push yourself like this. Yesterday's rain probably wasn't a good idea." I bristled at her words. Did she know about the taunts? The humiliation? The prank? No, she only knew what Aaron had likely told her. But still, her mention of it felt like a twisted reminder of my current position, trapped, out of place, and alone. "Leave it," Aaron interrupted curtly. His hands gripped the wheel tighter as his eyes flicked briefly to me in the rearview mirror. "Freya, we'll go to the hospital. Get you checked. And then you'll be confined to the pack house. No office. No work. Understood? Take me home." I murmured, my voice breaking. "I refuse to enter the hospital." "Not now." Aaron growled low, a frustrated sound that made my wolf stir uneasily. "You're being reckless. You can barely sit up." Stop being stubborn. But I was too exhausted for his anger to weaken me as it normally would. I met his fierce gaze in the mirror with the last shred of defiance I could muster. I said no. I know my body. Take a home. He growled again. Louder this time. But before he could speak further, our mate bond sparked. His voice entered my head suddenly, surprising me. Freya. His mental tone was calmer. His mental tone was calmer. His alpha calm dialing back as he tried a softer approach. Stop fighting me on this. The mind link was rare for him to use with me, even though May bonds made it natural. And on any other day, maybe I would have felt a flicker of joy knowing he cared enough to speak that way. But not today. Today I saw the fleeting looks he gave Caroline, filled with an intimacy we would never share. I remembered the nightmare's vivid images of cold hands and accusing words. And I knew that no matter what he said now, his actions would never match. I want to go home, I repeated in my mind, shutting down the link before he could argue further. Caroline's feigned concern and Aaron's rare softness only deepened the ache in me. Home was no comfort either, but it was the only place where I could curl up and hide from it all. Chapter 5, A Reluctant Patient. Freya's POV. I know just the person who can help. Caroline's voice was soft, almost too soft, as she turned to Aaron. I glanced at her from my seat in the back, barely able to lift my head. My body was heavy with exhaustion, the fever wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. Aaron's hands tightened on the steering wheel. His knuckles turned white against the leather. He didn't even glance her way, though I could feel the weight of his focus pulling toward her. Who? He asked. His tone clipped but far too interested for my liking. Her lips turned upward in a faint smile. The kind of smile that would make anyone else believe she was only thinking of my best interests. Dr. Paul Anderson, she replied smoothly. He's the best werewolf doctor I know. From my pack. He has treated countless cases like this and worse. Hearing the name of her pack made my stomach twist sharply. The Redwood Pack. Their territory. Their people I hated everything they represented. A stark reminder of how far my family's name had fallen in the eyes of others. We don't need him. I rasped, my throat dry and scratchy. The words barely left my lips before Caroline leaned into her seat with a perfect look of concern plastered on her face. Her emerald green eyes softened in a way that would seem genuine to anyone else. Freya is the only feeling I have left of Freya, she said gently, her tone condescending, though I suspected it wasn't obvious to Aaron. You're not in any condition to be stubborn. You clearly need medical attention. We're only trying to help. I wanted to snap back, to tell her to stop pretending she cared about me. But my body betrayed me. The fever was drowning out my strength, leaving only my emotions simmering just below the surface. Aaron's golden eyes flicked to me in the rearview mirror, sharp and cold as ever. He made the decision without hesitation. We're going. My heart dropped. That's not fair. I tried weakly. You don't even. Enough. Freya. His tone made it clear there would be no further arguments. His words hung in the air like a whip, silencing me immediately. Caroline settled back into her seat with a faint, triumphant smile that she didn't even try to hide. I bit my lip to keep the anger and hurt from bubbling over. Bella let out a low growl in my mind. Furious and restless. Don't trust her. She's playing you both. I clenched my fists against my skirt, ignoring my wolf's protests as the Redwood Pack gates loomed ahead. When we arrived, my fingers trembled as I unclasped the seatbelt. For a fleeting moment, I thought maybe the guards at the entrance would turn me away. But they didn't hesitate. One quick look at Aaron and Caroline in the front, and they waved us in. Their smiles were warm and familiar when directed at Caroline. Their gazes barely even flickered toward me as I sat slumped in the back seat. The clinic building stood pristine and modern, its polished exterior reflecting the cool morning light. Inside, every corner gleamed with cold efficiency. Everything about the place felt detached, impersonal. As soon as Aaron parked, I made the mistake of stepping out too quickly. My legs gave out almost instantly, the fever stealing what little strength I had left. Caroline was there in an instant, her arm curling around mine with practiced ease. The care in her voice grated against my nerves. Careful, Freya, she said softly, her smile picture perfect. You shouldn't try to push yourself like this. I'm fine, I muttered through clenched teeth, jerking my arm out of her grip. She laughed lightly, undeterred by my rejection. There's no need to be stubborn. Let me help you. Bella growled louder in my mind, her fury echoing like a heartbeat. Tell her to back off. You don't need her meddling hands. But I didn't have the strength or energy to fight. This fever was turning me into a shadow of myself. I gave in reluctantly, allowing Caroline to steady me as we made our way inside. Each step felt like a monumental effort. My heart beat thumping sluggishly in my ears. All the while, I was painfully aware of how out of place I was here. In her world. Aaron walked a few paces ahead, his shoulders stiff as his gaze swept across the clinic. Even though we were far from Northern Ridge territory, the alpha in him never fully rested. Dr. Paul Anderson appeared shortly after we were seated in one of the clinic rooms. He was tall and sharp, his precise movements and assessing gaze giving him an air of authority. Dr. Anderson, Caroline greeted warmly, her voice soft and welcoming. Thank you for seeing us on such short notice. Of course, Caroline, he replied with a small smile. Anything for you. I swallowed hard, suddenly feeling nauseous for a completely different reason. The doctor's attention shifted to me, his gaze clinical as he took in my flushed coin and trembling hands. His frown deepened. She's running a high fever, he remarked, picking up a thermometer. The device beeped after a few moments. Now I didn't need to see the numbers to know it wasn't good. Dr. Narson's expression grew darker as he turned to Aaron. 103.7. He said grimly. This is severe. We'll need to act quickly to bring it down before complications arise. I'd suggest an injection to stabilize her condition immediately. No. The word burst out of me before I could stop it. Aaron's golden gaze snapped toward me, sharp and unyielding. No, he repeated, his tone cold and full of challenge. Bella growled low inside me. But this time it wasn't directed at Caroline. We can't let him find out. We can't let anyone find out. I shook my head weakly, fighting to keep my voice steady. No injections. No medication. I don't want it. Dr. Anderson frowned but didn't press me. His expression was calm, measured, as though he dealt with difficult patients before. Then we'll have to use traditional cooling methods, he said after a brief pause. Wet towels, with towels. Cold compresses. It won't be as effective. But it's safer if she's refusing medication. Caroline immediately chimed in, her voice full of false reassurance. I'll help you prepare everything. Dr. Anderson. Her offer was quick, smooth, and left no room for refusal. The pair left the room together, leaving me alone with Aaron. The silence that followed was suffocating. Aaron's gaze bore into me, his frustration almost tangible. He crossed his arms over his chest, his stance screaming authority. You're being difficult, he muttered under his breath. I wanted to lash out, to scream at him that he didn't understand. But my body was heavy and uncooperative. Even lifting my head felt like too much effort. If I'm difficult, it's because I have a reason, I whispered finally, my voice barely loud enough to be heard. His lips pressed into a thin line. His wolf, Logan, was stirring behind his golden eyes, pacing restlessly. My trembling hand reached for the cold towel folded on a nearby counter. It slipped from my grasp before I could even lift it. Aaron moved instantly, unmoved instantly, his instinct sharp, and caught it before it hit the ground. But instead of handing it to me, he held it in his hands, watching me carefully. Chapter 6, Dangerous Care. Freya's POV. The sharp scent of antiseptic hung thick in the air of the Redwood Pack Clinic, cutting through my already sensitive senses. The fever made everything feel distant. My body weak and trembling. I could barely lift my head, and even the sound of voices seemed to echo, far away and distorted. Aaron stood close, his massive frame casting a long shadow over me as I slumped against the examining table. His golden eyes locked on mine, narrowing slightly in that sharp, assessing way he always did. He took in my pale face, flushed cheeks, and trembling shoulders. A sharp scoff left his lips, cutting through the thick silence in the room. Is this what jealousy looks like on you, Freya? His voice was pointed, but casual at the same time. Like this was some sort of joke to him. Caroline's return has you acting up, doesn't it? Bella, my wolf, growled low in the back of my mind, her hackles rising. The accusation made my chest tighten. Jealous of Caroline. Did he really think that was what all this was about? I opened my mouth to speak, but my throat felt raw, and my voice barely worked. I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous, I said. No, the tremble in my voice did little to convince even myself. My words were faint, broken, barely audible. Aaron watched me for a moment. A flicker of something, what? Irritation. Amusement, flashing through his golden eyes. Right, he said, as though he didn't believe me. His lips curved in what could have been a smirk if it hadn't been so cold. And not jealous at all. I wanted to snap back at him, to say something sharp, but my body betrayed me. My vision swam, my head pounding as though drums were being beaten from inside my skull. My grip on the edge of the table weakened, and I felt myself sway. Aaron moved fast, too fast for me to register. His hand shot out, steadying me before I could tumble completely. He caught my arm as though it took no effort at all. But his touch wasn't gentle, it never was. It was firm, practical, tactical, like everything about him. You don't even have the strength to hold yourself up, he said flatly, but his grip didn't loosen. What's the point of playing tough when you're this weak? And my words broke off as another dizzy spell hit me, and Aaron's frown deepened. Without another word, he turned on his heel and left the room, his footsteps heavy as the door clicked shut behind him. I sat there, struggling to keep myself upright, feeling a mix of exhaustion and resentment swirl in my chest. Minutes felt like hours before the door opened again, and Aaron returned with a bowl in his hands. The steam rising from it carried the earthy, familiar scent of herbs. My blurry mind recognized it instantly. Healing water, the kind the elders prepared for fevers like this. I stared at him as he dipped a clean white cloth into the bowl, his movements deliberate. He didn't meet my eyes as he wrung it out, though I could feel the weight of his presence looming over me. Then he pressed the damp cloth against my forehead, the cool sensation making me shudder slightly. His touch was purposeful but oddly gentle, not the usual rough, commanding way he handled things. No, this was different. Freya, he said quietly, almost to himself. His voice softened in a way that made my chest ache. What am I supposed to do with you? Bella let out a soft, longing whimper in the back of my mind. My traitorous wolf, always so eager for these rare moments of compassion from him, even when we knew better. Aaron's hand moved carefully, wiping away the sweat on my face with the cloth. He seemed focused, his jaw tight, his golden eyes darkening slightly. I felt trapped beneath his attention, pinned under the weight of it. When his hand moved lower, and his hand moved lower, reaching toward the neckline of my shirt, panic surged through me. My fever wasn't the only thing causing my cheeks to burn anymore. I mustered what little strength I hadn't, grabbed his wrist, stopping him in his tracks. My fingers barely encircled his arm. He was so much stronger than me, and we both knew it. His skin was hot beneath my touch, the heat from his wolf radiating off of him. Aaron's eyes snapped to mine instantly, glowing faintly gold. His wolf logan stirred behind those sharp golden irises. Curious and alert, his gaze flicked to where my hand held his wrist, and then back to my face. Why so shy all of a sudden? He asked, his tone low and edged with something dangerous. You're burning up, and this is necessary. I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could find the words, that was the only feeling I had left. Another voice filled the room. It's stone-like but carrying an edge of steel. Am I interrupting something? Caroline's voice snapped the tension like a knife slicing through thread. Bella growled instantly, her instincts flaring to life. My hand fell from Aaron's wrist as we both turned to face her. She stood in the doorway, holding a beautifully crafted porcelain cup. Steam rose from the tea within, filling the air with the sweet scent of flowers and honey. Caroline's perfect lips curved into an easy smile as she stepped forward. I brought some healing tea, she said smoothly. Her green eyes flicked over me briefly, her expression softening. I thought it might help. She walked with confidence, her movements naturally elegant, her presence filling the room the way sunlight floods a dark space. She stopped beside Aaron, her fingers brushing against his arm as if by accident. I'll handle it, she continued, looking pointedly at the cloth Aaron held. You have more important matters to take care of, don't you? For a fraction of a second, Aaron froze. His eyes started between Caroline and me, a muscle ticking in his jaw. His wolf resisted, that much was clear, but his human side was stronger. He nodded once, curtained businesslike, without another glance in my direction. He left the room, The door shut behind him with a soft click, leaving me alone with Caroline. She turned to me, her smile still perfectly in place as she reached for the damp cloth Aaron had left behind. "Well, let's make you more comfortable, shall we?" I tried to protest, but my voice cracked, and Caroline didn't wait for my approval. She helped me sit up, her hands firm but surprisingly gentle. Her green eyes flicked over me curiously as she began loosening the ties of my shirt. "You've been having a rough time, haven't you?" she mused softly, more to herself than to me. Her gaze lingered a little longer than necessary, her eyes glinting with what looked like amusement. "You have a lovely figure," she said after a pause, her tone light enough to seem like a compliment. But there was something behind her words. "He must have enjoyed your companionship while I was away." She smiled wider, her teeth a little too sharp. Bella's growl echoed inside me again, but I said nothing. What could I say? I felt too weak to argue, and she wasn't finished. "It's sweet of you. Really," she went on, keeping the bed warm for him. "But you do know that's all it is, don't you?" Her words cut deep, each one sinking further than the last. I gritted my teeth, trying to keep my breathing even as she adjusted my hospital gown, her hands moving too leisurely. "This has always been temporary," she added, her voice softening just enough to make the sting feel sharper. "Aaron's heart has always belonged to me. You must know that. We've been through so much, no one could ever take my place." I couldn't let her see how badly her words hurt. I couldn't let her win. Taking a shaky breath, I looked up at her and forced myself to speak. "You're right," I said quietly, the words bitter on my tongue. Every syllable felt sharp and drawn. "Aaron and I, it's just politics. A bargain." Her eyes gleamed, pleased with my answer. But I wasn't done. "I know where his heart lies," I continued, each word steady. "After all, you saved his life. You've always been the one he remembers, the one who matters." My hand fell protectively over my stomach, an unconscious movement I couldn't stop. Bella hissed in frustration at my attempts to keep the peace, but I ignored her. "I know my place," I told Caroline firmly, though my voice cracked on the last word, "and I'll never forget it."
The first 6 free trial chapters of this book are over. Do you like it? If you enjoy this book, please support the author's work by clicking the link below and buy it on Amazon Kindle. Have a nice day. See you in the next video.